Hey everybody, welcome to our live stream. Super glad to see y'all here tonight. I'm seeing everybody's checking in. If you haven't checked in yet, go ahead and throw your name over there. Just say hello or something. We got special treat tonight. Got special guest here. And also too, Jonathan's got a great message as well. So everybody stay tuned. Just super thankful for this. I'm going to open us up in a word of prayer, and then we're going to hop into worship. So Father, Lord, we just praise you. We praise you for your grace and your mercy and for technology. And we praise you for just everything that you've given us. Lord, be with Jonathan tonight as he brings the word. And just I pray that you speak through him and that your will is done tonight. And I just praise you, Lord, and thank you for everything you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.
You give life, you are love, you bring light in the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord, 'cause it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. So you give life, you give life, and you are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Oh, and great are you, Lord, 'cause it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord, 'cause it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you. here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. And you are here, and you're working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. And my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. And my God, that is who you are. 'Cause you are here, touching every heart. I worship you, and I worship you. And you are here, and you're healing every heart. I worship you. Oh, I worship you, 'cause you are a waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. And my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. And my God, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. 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 Oh, that is who you are. 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 And even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. And my God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. And my God, that is who you are. 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 Dear God, I come to you right now and just thank you so much that we can gather together even when we're apart, Lord. I just thank you that even in these difficult times right now, Lord, that we can come and worship you. And I pray that tonight, just through Jonathan, you'll just speak through him. Give him the words to say. Speak to us. Help us to know exactly what you want us to hear from you. We love you, God. We thank you. In your name, amen.
All right, I guess you guys figured out who our special guest is for tonight. Obviously, the wonderful Hope Godwin was leading worship for us, and we were super excited to be able to work with her this week and just get her in. We gave Jacob the week off. He's been up here every week working hard for us and helping us lead worship and do this new digital technology live stream craziness that we're doing. But, you guys are hopping in on the chat. We greatly appreciate that. As always, I can check out what you guys are putting in up there on the screen. I can't look at it the whole time, but I can look at it periodically as we go throughout the night. And so I need you to help me out. I love to get my message started out by getting a little bit of feedback from you guys. It's just like you're here with me in the audience. But what I need you to tell me tonight in the chat is what you don't like about your current situation. All right, so what do you not like about your life right now quarantine, lockdown, the situation that you find yourself in. What do you not like? Okay, don't tell me I miss my friends. I don't get to see my friends. We know that one, okay? I need the creativity. Like, I miss chicken biscuits from Martin's that I got every Tuesday. Something like that. Like, I need some creativity. I need specifics. I'm tired of seeing my parents all the time. You know, that's mean, but if it's true, just go ahead and be real, be honest. Parents, if you're watching tonight, go ahead and hop in there. Let us know what you're tired of, right? Like, I'm tired of kids whining all the time. I'm tired of my teenager complaining about how they don't get to go anywhere or how they can't see people or whatever it is. I need you guys to put in there, what are some things that you don't like about your situation right now, all right? So go ahead, start letting me know. Those should be coming through. There's a little bit of a delay for us. So Zach Giddens comes through and says, I'm stuck with my brother too long and it's awful. I actually saw Zach and his brother up here at the church today. They were serving and helping to supply some food to some families in need in our area. That was crazy, man. Normally we have like 70 households turn out, 70 cars or so. Today, from what I heard, it was like 170. There were cars everywhere this afternoon here to pick up food. So there's just huge need in our community. Super cool that some of our people were hopping in to help with that. Oliver Phipps says, no more sports to watch. Man, I feel you, man. Like, they're showing all the old stuff right now. And the funny thing about sports is when they show the old reruns, you already know the outcome. So it kind of takes away that special part of sports being what they are. Somebody says, look, I know you miss Mexican food. What do you dislike? The lack of Mexican food in your life, right, Carly? So I need you to be more specific. What you don't like about what you're dealing with right now, all right? So what do you not like? Hope Godwin says, I need my Starbucks, right? She doesn't like that she doesn't have Starbucks in her life right now. What do you not like, right? Kara Campbell says, not having the same normal daily routine, right? Routines are like a bummer when we're in the routine, but then when the routine is taken away from us, we're like, hey, what happened to my routine, right? We miss out on that. Let's see, we got some other ones coming in. They're coming in pretty quick, so I'm trying to keep up with you guys. Let's see, we got any other ones that I want to highlight. I'm tired of seeing my sister. That's Michaela being honest and real, okay? Even the family that we love, you get too much of them, get a little overdose, and you may want to spend less time with them. What do you not like about your current situation? If you haven't jumped in yet, let us know. What do you not like about your current situation? Matthew Roach says, I miss my Zaxby's. Oh, man, I can feel you on that. I miss my Zaxby's, right? Like, in my current situation, I don't like my current Zaxby's intake, right? Maggie Mullen says, I miss worshiping on stage with Jake on Wednesdays, and she's talking about Jacob Holloway, as you guys know. So she's like, I don't like it. And the reason why I wanted you to start out by telling us what you don't like is because we're starting a new series tonight called I Don't Like It, all right? And I didn't know. It's funny how the Lord works and how things happen like that. But I didn't know back at preteen retreat, which we did for the first time ever in January of this year. We normally do that event in the summer. This year it was in January. And we go on the preteen retreat, and I picked up this catchphrase that I didn't intentionally make my catchphrase, which was, I don't like it. And I would say that to any preteen that would come up to me and have some kind of crazy idea of something they wanted to do. I would say, I don't like it. And then the squad leaders that were on that trip with us would come up with stuff, and I'd be, just all the time, whether I did like it or not, I would just be like, I don't like it. And that was just my way of saying, like, I'm not real big into what you're talking about, don't care, or I think it's a bad idea. That was my way of kind of addressing all that. I would just simply say, I don't like it. And it stuck. And little did I know that needed to be the catchphrase for 2020. All right, because most of the things that have happened this year, not all, but most of the things that have happened this year, I don't like it. I'm just going to be honest. I'm a huge Kobe fan. Kobe passing away. It was devastating, terrible. His daughter on that helicopter with him, super sad. I definitely didn't like that, right? I don't know if you guys even remember because we've been in quarantine for so long now, but at the beginning of this year, it rained for like 752 days straight, right? Like, it rained and rained and rained, and then when it felt like it was going to stop, it kept raining. Like, literally every day you turned on the news, and it was just like raindrops all across the screen, like nothing but constant and consistent rain. And I remember that. I remember feeling like, is this ever going to stop? Like, are we ever going to have like a sunshiny day where we can just walk outside and not have to have an umbrella or a rain jacket, right? And I can tell you, I didn't like it, right? I don't like bad weather. I don't like rain. I like sunshiny days where I can go outside and get in the fresh air with my kids and my family and enjoy it. So I didn't like it, right? And then, little did I know, here comes March and April, and I don't like it, right? I don't like March and April of 2020, right? Like, I hope that this is the end of it, that this is like, we can look back and say March and April of 2020 were just 2 months that we don't like. Like, I've seen all these social media posts and these different things pop up. It's been making fun of like all these TV episodes that have time travelers in there. And they time travel and they land in this year. And so it's like a little meme and it says, hey, what year am I in? And, they're told, hey, it's 2020. And they're like, ooh, like I want to get out. And I can feel that. Like I can relate because I got to be honest with you. I'm celebrating the victories in my house. I love spending time with my family. Man, I can't tell you how valuable it is that with my 2 super little tiny dudes that I got running around my home, this extra time with them has been super sweet and super special. And getting opportunity to connect with my wife and spend time with her has been super special. But there's a whole lot of other things that have happened that I don't like. I don't like having to put on a mask to go out in public. I don't like, as a minister, like not being able to shake a hand and hug someone and act like I'm friends with someone when I run out to them, run into them in public. I don't like those things. And so I don't like it. And I just want to be honest with you. I know God's working right now, but I can be real enough to tell you I don't like some of the stuff God's doing. All right? And it's important that as followers of Christ, we're real enough to admit when we have those struggles. Okay? That's biblical. It happened in Scripture. Great men of God looked at God, talked to God, and said, God, I appreciate what you're doing. I can respect what you're doing. I can even see and kind of know where you're headed with all this and understand what's going on, but I don't like it. I promise you, Paul didn't like the thorn in the flesh. I promise you, Daniel didn't like spending the night in the lion's den, all right? And I get, look, incredible things happen, powerful things happen. God did some incredible stuff, but they didn't like it. Paul didn't like being shipwrecked and snake bitten and all those different things that he went through to get the gospel out to the world. He didn't like it. So I can be real with you and say that there's a lot of things about what God is doing right now that I don't like. And there's a lot of things going on in our world right now that I don't like. And I think God's okay with me being real and honest about that because I think the point is I shouldn't like it. I think the point is God's okay with me not feeling comfortable with what he's doing right now. I think God's okay with me not being fully on board even necessarily with some of the things that are happening right now. I think God is okay because, as a matter of fact, I know God is okay because God doesn't need my approval. God doesn't need me to feel comfortable and okay with his agenda and his plan and his will. God needs me to follow him and be obedient regardless. And he's okay with the fact that I don't like it, right? And so tonight, as I was preparing to talk about this series and where this series kind of comes from, as I was asking God, hey, for this season that we're in, for this chapter of life that we're in, God, I need a word, I need a passage, I need something to teach and preach, like help me out. And God was like, hey, for whatever reason, God just spoke to my heart and was like, go and talk about Elijah. And so if you have a Bible, you're going to go to the book of 1 Kings with me. You can go ahead and start getting there. Pull it up on your phone, whatever you're doing. 1 Kings is where we're going to be, chapter 17. I'll tell you more about it in just a minute. But I was like, God, Elijah? Like I'm going with the Old Testament prophet of Elijah. Like, God, why do you want me to do that? Why do you want me to teach Elijah? And there's something really funny, and it's what we're going to look at tonight and dive into a little bit. It's just a few verses, like 7 or 8 verses, and 1 Kings chapter 17. And what's funny is Elijah is given this message from God that he's supposed to deliver to King Ahab. He goes to King Ahab, delivers the message. As soon as he's done delivering the message, this is like the first thing he does as a prophet. He goes and delivers this message, and God says, okay, now I need you to go into quarantine. Like that's what he tells Elijah, go into quarantine. And when I read that and it sunk in and God spoke to my spirit and helped me to see what had actually taken place in the life of Elijah, I was like, okay, you know what? This will preach. This is appropriate for the time that we're in. This is what we need to see. This is what we need to hear. And so I want you to turn with me to 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 1 through 8, and we're going to talk about quarantine at the Wadi. And you may be like, what? Like even the people in the room with me right now are shaking their head and laughing. Quarantine at the wadi. All right, just roll with me. I promise it'll all make sense in just a minute. But we're going to talk tonight about Elijah and his quarantine at the wadi. Now, if you don't know what the wadi is, I'll tell you about the wadi in just a minute. That is a biblical word. Depending on what translation you're looking at, you're literally seeing the word wadi in front of your face. Some of you are not, but we'll talk about it in just a minute, all right? But we're going to talk about quarantine at the wadi. For you, it's quarantine at your house or quarantine wherever you are at this time, and you're dealing with like, man, I'm stuck at the house. I'm bored out of my mind. I don't know what to do. I'm tired of this. I wish it would stop. I wish we could go back to normal. Let me tell you, quarantine at the wadi's got a lot of things we can learn from it as we look into this passage tonight, all right? So in 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 1 through 4, I want you to read that with me. It'll be on the screen as well. It says, "Now Elijah, who was from Tishbe in Gilead, told King Ahab, 'As surely as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, the God I serve, there will be no dew or rain during the next few years until I give the word.' Then the Lord said to Elijah, 'Go to the east and hide by Cherith Brook.'" Some of you have the Wadith at Cherry or the Wadi at Cherith. "Hide by the Cherith Brook near where it enters the Jordan River. Drink from the brook and eat what the ravens bring you, for I have commanded them to bring you food." All right? So I want to unpack that just a little bit so we can get the full context of what's going on. Elijah goes to the king and he says, it's not going to rain until God says it's going to rain. And just so you get the memo, it's going to be several years of drought. Several years of you dealing with this situation. Several years of you having to go through this, all right? And so it presents to me this big question that we have to ask ourselves, this question that we all kind of have to wrestle with. Will we listen for God or not? Will we listen for God or not? Now, some of you may say, that should be two. Jonathan, it should say, will we listen to God or not? No, I think the important thing is, to begin with, we have to listen for God. We have to listen for his voice. We have to look for his guidance. We have to look for what is God telling me to do. Am I even trying to listen for the voice of God? What I'm talking about is the difference between like a loud boom and we can't help but hear it versus a small whisper that we have to intentionally put some effort into to actually hear and comprehend what's going on. As many of you know, my wife is a soft-spoken individual. She's hard to hear sometimes, and a lot of people talk about that. She hates hearing that. It's one of her pet peeves, like for people to talk about how they can't hear her. And I'm loud. I'm always loud. Our household is loud with those two boys in there. And so mama, man, sometimes it's hard to hear what she's saying. It's sometimes hard to hear what Amanda's talking about. And so in order to actually hear her, I have to like look at her, pay attention to her mouth, really focus and try to hear what she's trying to say. I have to listen for what Amanda is trying to tell me, right? And it has to be intentional a lot of the time. What's funny is she can tell when I'm listening versus when I'm really listening. And a lot of y'all have picked up on that if you've known me for any period of time. You can tell the difference between the two. Jonathan's kind of sort of catching on to what I'm saying, or no, he's intently listening for what I'm talking about and listening to what I'm saying. And I struggle with that a lot, right? I struggle with that and have to really wrestle with God speaking to me and me learning to listen for God. God, what are you trying to tell me to do? God, what do you want me to do? And I want you to imagine you're Elijah and you've just delivered this powerful message to the king. You've just told the king it's not raining in this land until God says so, and it's going to be several years before that happens. You get through delivering that message to the king, and he's like, okay, well, let me listen for God and find out what's next. There's got to be something awesome. I just got through talking to the king. It's got to be big plans in store for me. God, what would you have me do? So he's listening for God's direction, and God tells him to go to the middle of nowhere, find a cave, and hang out in that cave every day, and he would have a source of water called a wadi. Some New Living Translations and other translations call it a brook. Here's what you need to understand. The wadi, the brook, both of those mean a temporary source of water that would dry up when the rainy season stopped. Remember the message that Elijah just delivered to the king? The rainy season ain't happening. So God tells him to go to the wadi that's about to dry up, hang out there until I tell you to do otherwise. And by the way, if you get hungry, here's going to be your meal delivery service. It's going to be a bird called a raven that delivers breakfast and dinner to you every day. Now, if you're listening for the voice of God and God tells you, go to a cave in the middle of nowhere, drink from a source of water that's going to dry up, and your food would be delivered by wild animals, I think we would struggle to follow through in obedience to that. You better believe Elijah was listening for God. He knew that was the voice of God because anybody else, even himself, telling him to do that was insane and crazy, right? It would have been ridiculous for him to try to think through this. I'm going to go and go to the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to find me a cave, and I'm going to live in a cave by myself for a long period of time, and I'm going to just stay there, and I'm going to drink from this source of water that I don't even know how much longer it's going to be there, but I'll just do that. Like, he didn't pack a bag. He didn't take meals. He didn't take provisions. He didn't take any type of shelter. He just struck out and had to do what God is telling him to do. And so when I think about our current situation, I have to ask myself, are we willing to listen for God during this season of life? We've talked about it in previous weeks. How many more distractions does God have to remove from your life before you start listening to him? Before you start listening for his voice? I want you to think about that and think about how that applies so greatly to the situation we find ourselves in. So many distractions removed. Elijah had so many things removed. And he was able to listen for the voice of God in a way like never before. I want you to look at verse 5 with me. And in verse 5, it says, "So Elijah did as the Lord told him and camped beside the Kerith brook east of the Jordan." So Elijah did what God told him to do, right? And that seems like a simple verse and a simple kind of thing to teach there, and it really is, because it's, again, another question that we find ourselves struggling with and dealing with all the time. Will we follow God's instructions or not? Will we follow God's instructions or not? So we listen for the voice of God. God tells us what he wants us to do. And then we have to choose, am I going to actually do it or not? Elijah was told, you're going to go to the wadi, you're going to drink from the wadi, you're going to hang out at the wadi, you're going to do nothing at the wadi except wait for a bird to deliver your food. That is your current situation in life. And I can imagine Elijah going, okay, for how long? God didn't tell him for how long. The Bible doesn't even tell us for how long. He just said, go to the wadi, hang out there, drink from the wadi, eat from the raven, I'll take care of you, you'll be good. I mean, that's not a lot of information to go on. And when I find myself in this situation that I'm in right now, that we're all in, this quarantine, this coronavirus, and this fallout all around the world from what's going on, I find myself going, God, how much longer? Like, how much longer? Look, I'm going to be honest. Some of y'all were talking about being out of school like it was a really cool thing, like it was like a snow day. Y'all remember that? You remember, like, you found out another county was going to cancel school, and you're like, oh, man. Maybe we'll get out of school. Maybe I won't have to take that test. Maybe I won't have to turn in that assignment. Oh, man, that sounds, wow. Like next week, we could get like an extra, what if we get like 3 weeks of spring break? Like that sounds awesome. I remember hearing you guys talk about it like that. I don't know if you can admit and remember it that way, but I promise you there was a period of time where everybody was talking about like, it'll be fun. Then the rest of the school year is shut down. And all spring sports are canceled along with it. And prom and all the other extracurricular activities are gone. It sounded like fun. Problem was we didn't know how long. Right? We didn't know how long this was going to last. We didn't know how long we were going to find ourselves in this situation. We didn't know how long we were going to have to deal with this. And if we aren't careful, we'll find ourselves in the midst of this situation going, how long? Like, God, I'm gonna just kind of do it this way until I find out how long. God, I'm just going to live like a hermit until I find out how long. God, I'm just going to like chow down on junk food until I figure out how long. Like, God, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do and be lazy and sit around and catch up on Netflix episodes and watch all those things I've been wanting to watch. Yeah, that's great. You've run out of all that, right? Like now you're like, man, if I keep eating junk food at the rate I'm eating it, I won't be able to fit through the door on the way out. There is literally nothing left for me to watch on Netflix. I've run out of all my shows. Disney Plus, I've combed through everything and watched everything. That's me. That's my own thing. But, you know, it's like, hey, we've done all these things that sounded great, and now I'm wondering how long. And the point was we got into it the wrong way. The point was we got into this unique situation wondering how soon can we get out. Even me, I was wondering, is this one Sunday or two? Is this a couple Wednesday nights? And it's funny how our mentality has shifted. I went from deal with it to survive through it to no, we've got no excuses. We need to find a way to make the best of it right here, right now. See, God is telling us all what we need to be doing. And if you don't know what it is, open His Word and read it and see what God is calling you to do. And it used to be we would return to God and have all this list of excuses. God, I can't spend time in your Word. I got to get up early to study. I got to get to school on time. I got to get ready. I got to spend time getting ready for baseball and softball and all these other things I'm doing. I got all this stuff going on in my life. I'm busy. I'm busy, God. God's like, what happens when you're not busy anymore? I saw this post online. It said, it's not that people lacked time. It's that we lacked discipline. It's not that we lacked time. It's that we lacked discipline. Even when we've been given an abundance of time, a lot of us have not created healthy things in our life, especially our spiritual life. We've actually added on a lot of unhealthy things. We're spending more time on social media, more time gaming, more time doing ridiculous things and stuff that doesn't matter, stuff that's not enriching our relationship with God or helping us to become better Christ followers. And a lot of us are thinking, well, I can do that now when the world gets back to normal. You weren't doing it the first time. What makes you think you're going to do it the second time? If you don't start disciplining yourself to grow in your relationship with God, you're not going to know how to do that when your life starts to get some type of semblance of normal back. You've got to start disciplining yourself now and getting into His Word and talking to Him and building a relationship with Him now, because honestly, you'll never have a better time. Just being real, just being completely transparent with you, you will never have a better time in life to get close in your relationship with God than you have right now. And you've got no excuses. So I want to encourage you, it's one thing to listen for the voice of God, it's another thing to follow God's instructions. Elijah said, sure, I'll do it. Yes. I'll go to the cave in the middle of nowhere. I'll drink from the temporary source of water. I'll eat meals delivered by ravens. And I'll do all these things. And he did it. He was obedient to God. I can't even fathom. Like I remember when all this stuff started happening, me and my wife were wondering, what do we actually need to get from the grocery store? You know? How much food do we need to buy? Are we buying food for a couple days? Are we buying food for a week? Will we ever get to go to the grocery store again? Like, I don't know. Like you're trying to find this balance between like panic buying and realistic buying and survival buying. And you're like, well, I don't want to die. You know, like it's just crazy how our brain was kind of functioning during that period, right? And we're just kind of stressed and anxiety's building in. Elijah was told to go to the middle of nowhere. There was no Walmart, no Target, no Kroger, no grocery stores, no drugstores, no nothing, right? He's sent to the middle of nowhere to sit in a cave. There's no Netflix. There is no Wi-Fi. There is no technology. There is no show to watch, no person to email or text or call or FaceTime or anything. None of that. What in the world? That's the real important question. What in the world did Elijah do with all that time? What in the world would we do with that much time? See, we have a lot of things in our life that can still keep us distracted. I can't even imagine what it might be like to be Elijah and have none of those distractions. But I tell you what, his relationship with God got stronger. His obedience to God got stronger. His faithfulness to do the things that God called him to do got stronger. And you see that in upcoming chapters that we'll look at in upcoming weeks. But this whole obedience that Elijah had was just this reckless, I'll do it, God. I won't take anything with me. I won't take any provisions. I won't take any water. I won't take anything, God. I will go to the cave in the middle of nowhere and I will drink from where you tell me to drink, and I will eat when you send me food through wild animals that are flying in the sky. God, when you say jump, I'll jump. When you say go, I'll go. When you say do, I'll do it. Like, just tell me what's next. Man, that's something I can aspire to. That's how my mind has had to shift in the middle of all this stuff that we're dealing with. It's not, God, what do you want me to do when things get back to normal? It's, God, what do you want me to do now? What do you want me to do today? How can I do some good things in this world now? Now our excuses become, well, it's not normal. God wants us to learn how to live for him when things aren't normal. I want us to look at the last couple of verses. I want you to see how this plays out. So Elijah does what God tells him to do. And in verse 6, sure enough, God does what he promised. It says, the ravens brought him bread and meat each morning and evening, and he drank from the brook. But after a while, the brook dried up, for there was no rainfall anywhere in the land. Oh, see, now, look, Elijah did what God told him to do. He went to the cave at the wadi. He went to the middle of nowhere. He was drinking from the water like he was supposed to. He was eating from the birds when they delivered the food. He was bored out of his mind in between. I'm sure he's dealing with all these things that are the consequences of his obedience to God. He's dealing with all these things, right? And then all of a sudden he wakes up, and I can just imagine this happening. He wakes up one day, he walks out of his cave, he goes down to the wadi, and he looks and he's like, man, that wadi is drying up. That brook of water, that temporary source of water is starting to dry up. And imagine that day he started praying and talking to God. God, are you going to take care of me? God, are we going to be okay? Are we going to survive this? Am I going to be okay? God, are you going to send me some great source of water? Like I imagine him praying, God, we need another plan because this is drying up. And then all of a sudden he walks outside one day and the water is gone. But I love that part of the story too, because at that point, that's when we find ourselves going, God, I don't know what's next. God, please help me to know what's next. Like I'm at the end of my rope. I am lost. I have no idea where we go from here. And in that moment, I want you to see in the text, God speaks to Elijah, but only after the brook dried up and only after he was there for a while, right? God finally speaks up, and it says in verse 8, then the Lord said to Elijah. Then the Lord said to Elijah, when the brook dried up and all of his resources were coming to an end, when he felt like he had no options left, then God spoke. And talk about faith. And that source of water starts drying up. I'm looking for an out. I'm looking for a plan. I gotta take things under my own control. I've got to take charge. God, you're slacking on your job. I got to step in and do something here. And Elijah didn't do it. He stayed all the way to the end. And when that water dried up, I love that verse 8 tells us, and God at that time spoke to him. And you're like, well, what did he say? We'll pick up there next week. But the important thing you need to understand is when we feel like we're at a loss of what to do next, that tends to be when God's voice is the loudest. When our playbook goes out the window, when our plans have to be scratched, that's when we can hear God's voice the loudest. Which brings me to my last question I want you to think about tonight. Will we be better because of this? Will we be better because of this? It's a super simple question, and I tried to phrase this question a lot of different ways, and I think that sums it up the best. Will we be better because of this? Because of this situation that we find ourselves in? Are we going to be worse off than we were before, or are we going to be better? Are we going to be better Christ followers, or are we going to be bigger wimps, have more excuses, be more distracted, be too busy again? Gotta be honest with you, I want to be better in this. I want to learn from this. I want to grow in my relationship with God through this. I want to quit finding excuses to put this off and quit doing the things that God calls me to do. My prayer has not been, God, when we finish this, show me what to do. My prayer has become, God, in this, show me what to do. And the cool thing is, yeah, a lot of my typical things that I would normally do in a crisis situation or in some type of disaster or when something like this happens, normally the first thing the church can deploy is manpower, right? Like I could say, I got a bunch of teenagers, we'll be over there and we'll help you. We'll do whatever. We'll meet the need because I got manpower. But the playbook's gone. The normal operating procedure of what we do has to change. And it has very much become, God, what are you calling me to do, even if I have to do it by myself? Even if I'm alone, even if I'm social distancing or on lockdown or in quarantine, God, what do you want me to do in this season, in this moment, on this day? God, what do you want me to do? How can I make a positive impact for this world? How can I lead people to know Jesus? How can I change people's lives today? Not tomorrow, not at the end of quarantine, not when coronavirus disappears and isn't a problem to us anymore, not when there's a vaccine, not when no, what can I do today? Because Elijah learned to trust God enough that even on the day he walked outside and all the water was gone, he knew that God was going to take care of it. He knew God well enough to know God's voice and to know that that day, when that day came, he'd be able to listen to God at that very moment because God had taken care of him day after day after day. And he had trusted in God day after day after day. And he had seen God provide for him over and over again. And so as our mentality begins to shift, instead of riding out this storm, let's figure out a way to do what God is calling us to do in the middle of this storm. I want you tonight to as we close, there's a video that we're going to play. And it's a very important video. It starts out just with a group leading worship from Red Rock Church. I believe they're located in Colorado, so I want to give them full credit for this video. We're pulling it straight from the internet and showing it to you guys because I found it to be just so powerful that I wanted to share it with you. And the reason I want to share it with you is because in this video, you'll see clip after clip after clip of people who chose in this time of life, in quarantine, lockdown, coronavirus, to figure out a way to make a positive impact on this world and to change people's lives. And so I hope that just like this video challenged me and inspired me, and to be honest with you, even made me tear up a little bit, I hope that it challenges you, inspires you, and moves you emotionally as well. Because honestly, I think we have a lot of potential of what we can do for the glory of God starting right now. So I want you to watch this video, and then we'll be done for the night.